Bhargavi, should we start?
Yeah, just a second, just a second.
Sure.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third session of the webinar series titled Interdisciplinary Action Research Conversations with Emerging Leaders. So why these conversations? So while we are getting used to this world of physical distancing, work from home, wearing masks and being very careful, and also getting used to containment zones and isolations and quarantines within our families and extended friends, colleagues, and acquaintances, just about everything around us demands a fresh rethinking as we get back to our work, research, and the many things that we do. And nationally and globally, economies have collapsed, and the unorganized and informal communities who constitute a majority of the population are left grievously impaired, and agriculture being one of them. So, in this climate of despair, various young researchers and activists have been working on emerging trends, which is a very good mix of various disciplines. And this interdisciplinary action research has been addressing some of the most pressing issues of our times, and that too from various aspects of public health, urban planning, sociology, ecology, digital commons, maternal health, migration studies, and so on. So while these ideas and explorations deserve public focus, given this post-pandemic situation, while there are so many difficulties that each of us are dealing with, CFA and ESG thought it was the right time to listen to these voices, bring focus to such exciting explorations by young researchers from across India. And in this webinar series, we draw attention to such quiet and interdisciplinary efforts that are emerging all around us, especially by young researchers and leaders through in-depth and engaging conversations. So in the process, the series aims to create spaces for interaction between academia, civil society, government, students, and the wider public. So these webinars are scheduled every day, every week, Thursday 5 to 6:30, and is open to all through prior registration. So today's conversation is about enabling human-elephant coexistence using mobile technology. Expansion of human settlements and agricultural fields across the country has resulted in widespread loss of elephant habitat. It has degraded the forage, it has reduced landscape connectivity, and almost all the elephant corridors across the country are disturbed with urbanization. And there has been a significant decline in elephant populations compared to what it was historically. And not just in India, across elephant habitats globally. So with these shrinking habitats, elephants are gradually forced to move into closer contact with people, resulting in frequent and severe conflict over space, resources, safety, and it has had severe impacts on lives and livelihoods. And such human-elephant conflict has resulted in contestations over protection of biodiversity, and dealing with such conflicts has become increasingly difficult for forest departments, ecologists, geographers, sociologists, and even local village governments. So research over the years has helped us understand wildlife behavior, and many of our friends today, like our speakers today, have been studying elephant behavior and understanding their movement and their everyday adjustment to what is happening around us. And they've also been studying the local patterns of the human-wildlife conflict, which has also brought out a whole lot of papers and a whole lot of ideas, which are slowly getting adopted across regions to prevent these kind of conflicts. And there have also been many mitigation approaches. While some of the, as part of the conflict management approaches, Some of it has been through exclusion and elephant translocation and selective domestication of elephants, which is pretty brutal. There are a few very innovative approaches as well. And there has also been, as part of the mitigation strategy, management strategy, compensation, monetary compensation to people who've been affected by these conflicts. So, however, all these approaches merely address the symptoms rather than the underlying drivers of this whole human-elephant conflict associated with the natural resources around us, the cultural values, local livelihoods, and also the increasing fragmentation of the habitats. So while long-term resolution is something greatly needed, and a promotion of a peaceful coexistence is what is required at this point of time, we have our speakers today, Dr. Anand and Vinod Krishnan, who will share with us some of their efforts that has begun to show some very interesting and good results. And it has been a very unique way in which they have involved local communities, local governments, and the forest department. So thank you both, Dr. Anand and Vinod, for agreeing to be part of this webinar and this conversation. To introduce both of them to our participants today, Dr. Anand Kumar has a MSc in psychology, and he used to study lion-tailed macaques in the Annamalai landscape. He later did a PhD on elephant behavior and has been studying elephants in Valparai for the past 2 decades. He's been instrumental in implementing the early warning systems to mitigate human-elephant interactions in Valparai. Currently, he heads the elephant program at the Nature Conservation Foundation and is a member of the Asian Elephant Specialist Group. And to introduce Vinod Krishnan, Vinod has a background in commerce, and he grew up with a very keen interest in wildlife since his school and college days. After working for a few years in the areas of accounts, hospitality, and wildlife conservation, he joined Dr. Anand's team at NCF in 2015 and has been studying human-elephant interaction in the Hassan region. He helped in implementing the early warning systems like the Valparai model and is currently working as a project coordinator with NCF. So before I hand over the forum to our speakers, just a little housekeeping. So we will all keep our cell phones on silent, our mics on mute, and whatever suggestions and questions we have, we would encourage you to type it in the chat box. It makes it easy for us to coordinate. And then if you have to speak, you can raise your hand depending on the time. We will also give you an opportunity to speak. Yeah, so and with respect to the format, Vinod will present to us the entire story of his work, followed by taking questions in which both Dr. Anand and Vinod will help us understand this a lot better. Over to you, Vinod. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bhargavi, for this elaborate introduction and also putting things into perspective. Yeah, so I mean, the picture says it all. This is something that we see in a place like Valparai almost every day. I mean, the elephant overlooking vast expanses of tea and fragmented patches of forests. So this is pretty much where the story began, probably 20, 25 years ago. But before I come to that, just a background of where we stand right now. So as per the government figures, just 20% of our country's area is under forests. Now this includes reserve forest, monoculture plantations, everything. So out of that 20%, it's a very small 5% area that is actually under protection or the protected area where there's no human interference, so to say. So we are looking at the scale. There is so much of human and wildlife overlap that is happening across the country. And coming to the elephant in particular, well, people have varied sentiments when it comes to elephants. It's been there in our cultures, or you see them when you go out sometimes. And so India right now has 50% of the world's elephant population. And some of the threats we are looking at is, habitat loss, right, like you were pointing out, and fragmentation. So these are some of the biggest challenges that both people like us, people, just common people, and governments are dealing with. So so looking at the elephant range, the Asian elephant is across 13 range countries, as shown in this map. And if you look at it, these are the conflict areas. Now, wherever there are elephants, there is conflict. It is not just Valparai or Hassan where I've been working. It's across many countries. So it is been a pressing issue, not just here in India, but elsewhere as well. And here's an interesting map. So this is the one on the left is from a study which was done in 2015 by Madhusudan. And here we see that the elephants have been distributed outside the forest areas as well. In fact, more than 60, almost 60% of the elephants have been ranging outside PAs. Now, what I mean by this is not they're not living outside, but at some point they have strayed outside the protected areas. And Karnataka, as per the latest figures, there's an estimate that there are 6,000 odd elephants, but it's not that all these 6,000 are outside. I mean, it is just a small population which keeps ranging outside, like Hassan or Coorg, for example, which have been in the news for a long time. Look at the comparison with Sri Lanka, such a small country, and this is a very interesting study by Dr. Prithviraj Fernando, a good friend of ours. And here, 70% of the entire country is humans and elephants are sharing space. So there is always these co-occurrence that's happening. So this is across the country. So it is not just a thing specific to India. It is something that is also prevalent in a lot of other places apart from India. So yes, so and when we speak about protected areas, I'll play a couple of videos from some of our sightings. So this is in one such area. It's a beautiful habitat, as you can see, riverine habitat, a lot of grass, and elephants love to spend time in such habitats. They feed on an array of grasses, and this is one such beautiful undisturbed habitat where you can see these elephants interacting. So again, another video from our colleague Ganesh, who's working in Valparai. So elephants are also very social animals, and here what you see is a dominant male approaching the herd and a subdominant bull keeping his distance away. So it's a clearly defined society, very complex but very interesting to study. So he's just keeping as the larger male approaches, he's just heading away from him. So it's also very important to study these things, their behavior, how their societies are functioning, which I'll talk a little more about in the next few slides. So like I was telling, so we follow elephants on a daily basis. We've been doing this for a long time, both in Valparai and since 2015 in Hassan. And these are some of the things that we get to see. When they are not disturbed, you see them in their doing their natural things. For example, in this video, you can see an elephant resting, and we see a whole range of behavioral traits during tracking. We see them sparring sometimes. We see them playing. A lot of young males sparring. They spar for a very long time. Here we can see them resting as well. So these are some of the things we keep observing on a daily basis when we go out to the field, which is extremely important. These are the things that we also need to look at the scientific part of and the behavioral and how they are ranging. These are very important things that we have been doing over long periods of time in both our study areas. So it's not just people and elephants interacting. Elephants also interact. I mean, there is a lot of interaction that happens between animals. And since a landscape like Valparai, which has a lot of tiger reserves where there are other carnivores like wild dogs or leopards, there are also a lot of interactions that happen between various species. So here you can see a wild dog in those tea bushes, and there's a herd of elephants. So suddenly they start huddling up as they see the wild dogs. So the calves are secure. They're all huddled up now. Yeah. So that is the elephant part. Now coming to the conflict. We've been reading about conflict very regularly. It's been widely written about, spoken about, and there are two aspects here. One is, of course, loss of livelihood, a lot of crop damage that happens in many areas, including Hassan, and human deaths. Now, this first image is that of an elephant that entered Mysore city a few years ago. It was widely reported in the media, and unfortunately, a security guard of an ATM was killed. And incidents like these keep happening where both people and elephants are dying. And if you look at the statistics, it's quite alarming. I mean, on both sides, a lot of elephants are dying due to various reasons: electrocution, train accidents. Recently, a few months ago, there was this incident where an elephant, there was this pineapple bomb and the elephant died. It was quite a ghastly sort of an incident, but it was widely written about. But honestly, in the last 1 week or last month, almost 20 elephants have died in the Coimbatore Forest Division. About 7 elephants around Chamarajnagar in Karnataka. Last just 1 week, 3 elephants have died in and around Hills. So it's happening on a daily basis, and the more you dig into the more alarming the statistics are. Well, some of them don't get reported, but it is the interactions between people and elephants are happening on a daily basis, and sometimes these are negative interactions and retaliatory killings, or all these are very common across the country. So this is a short sort of the numbers are really quite alarming. So coming to the videos again, like I was saying, the interactions are very interesting sometimes. So here's a video from Sri Lanka. This is again shot by Dr. Prithviraj Fernando's team. And you can see here. Unbelievable, right? I mean, just two of them at a constant speed approaching elephants. All and the elephants really completely were taken by surprise. They just scattered in all directions. Very similar interaction, but in a different landscape. This is where we have been working in Hassan. This is an elephant which locally people have named him Bhima because he's really big. So this is again an everyday situation in many of the villages in Hassan. But this particular individual is very docile. He always keeps avoiding confrontation with people. If he wishes to, he can just turn back and charge at them. But he's just avoiding all the people and going in his own way. So there are a lot of other ways where elephants are constantly driven. Sometimes indiscriminate driving is also very, very bad. It really aggravates the situation. This is from an area somewhere in Tamil Nadu where a herd of elephants is driven. You can see that there are a lot of firecrackers. So these scenes are very, very common in a lot of places. And what are the mitigation measures that have been tried so far? So there have been solar fences that have been installed, elephant-proof trenches that have been dug. There are drive operations which involve kumkis or tamed elephants to drive back elephants back into the forests. And one of the more sort of the more extreme ones is capture and removal of elephants, which has been also tried out in Hassan time and again. And in 2014, about 22 elephants were captured, which is probably the biggest capture operation in the history of Asia. So, but how well have these things worked is something that we need to see at a greater detail. So here's a interesting video of an elephant trying to break a fence, a power fence. This is from Sri Lanka again. As he's approaching the fence, he knows, so he's folding up his trunk. Again, no contact, ensuring his trunk is safe. Checks whether there's power or not. And that's how we do it. So yeah, so fences are being tried, drives are still being done by people, forest department. But yes, it sometimes does aggravate situation. In a place like Hassan, driving elephants doesn't make sense at all because if you drive elephants from one place, they will end up in another village or another estate. If there are forest boundaries on one side and driving them into the forests, probably sometimes may work. But in highly fragmented areas, driving elephants can be even more dangerous because you never know who is on the other side. There could be people working there or someone just going back home could also be in danger. At the same time, it also increases a lot of stress amongst the elephants, which many studies, like the one of our colleagues did a study about how driving affects stress levels in elephants, and it was observed that the stress increases quite significantly. So, so with this background, we try to uh, address these situations in a more proactive way. So, one of the important things, like I was telling you in the previous slides, is understanding how elephants are using a particular area, how to see a little bit of their behavior, how they're using the area, and what is the conflict, how the conflict occurrence is happening, and important things like these. And based on that, based on these baseline studies and the information and the data collected, we apparently also involve local communities and work with the forest department, and then come up with mitigation measures that are site specific and appropriate. So this is what we have seen has provided us with good positive results so far in both landscapes. Now we're working in two places. One, of course, is Valparai, which is a part of the Anamalai Hills in southern Western Ghats. Now, Valparai is largely dominated by tea and coffee plantations. There are rainforest fragments and some monoculture plantations like eucalyptus. And on the other hand, a completely contrasting landscape, Hassan, mostly coffee dominated, a lot of paddy fields like you can see in the drone shot on the right, with human habitations in between, and very small pockets of reserve forests and monoculture plantations. So, Valparai, we've been studying elephants here. When Anand started his work way back in 2000, it's an ongoing, it's almost more than 2 decades now. Hassan, we started working in 2015 after the mass captures that happened in 2014. So so we've over the course of time we have identified individuals, both females, males, and seen how the herds are using these landscapes. So here in this map, you could see that there are many herds like Monica's, Tapir, Pigtail, and what we've been noticing is there is a certain pattern in their movement. Each herd has been ranging in a certain area. Of course, there are overlaps in these areas, but largely their ranging has been very similar. Each herd has been ranging in the same areas where year on year we are seeing the same patterns. But when we look at Hassan, it's been very dynamic and there has been a drastic shift in their ranging. So we try to understand why this has been happening. So like I said, Hassan is an area which is largely dominated by coffee estates. There's a lot of paddy fields in between and human habitations. So on the western side, if you see the greener area, these are all contiguous forests, which is slightly away from the core conflict area. So if we say so. So in this area, a lot of coffee estates have started fencing. I mean, when I say fencing, these are power fences to protect their estate or from elephants entering their estates. So when we looked at the distribution of elephants over the years, and when we looked at how fences, when we saw the shift in their movement, you can see all the yellow dots are the elephant locations, and all the white circles that you start seeing are the fences that have come up. So in the first year, there's an even spread. Elephants are moved across the landscape. But if you start seeing from 2016, 17 onwards, there are clusters, like they have intensively used the northern part of the study area. And you can see that as they're spending more and more time in the northern part, a lot more fences are popping up. So that has pushed them further away from these fences. So they're using more of unfenced areas now. So what we really need to look at here is in an already fragmented landscape, when movement is restricted, it will negatively affect elephants' movement. So what it does is it intensifies conflict in certain pockets of the area, which was very evident. So this here is a map of the conflict incidents, and this is conflict incident per village per square kilometer. So in the first year, which is 2015 and 16, you could see that wherever elephants have gone, there has been conflict. The darker shades are intense conflicts, where some areas had more conflict than the other. But when you look at the second year, like I said, the movement of elephants shifted completely to the northern parts because of fences. The conflict increased there. So the incidents of crop damage happened in just a few cluster of villages. It was extremely difficult. And in the third year as well, a very, very similar pattern was noticed. So so this is also a very very concerning issue, because crop damage along with loss of human life has been two major aspects of human elephant interactions. In this image in the bottom one, you see that in Valparai, like there is elephants don't feed on tea; they just use tea estates to navigate between one rainforest to the other fragment. And of course, there are a lot of swamps, they mostly come for the grass. But in the process, they end up also damaging buildings where grains are stored. So it's quite common. And compared this with Hassan is very different. So in Hassan, they don't damage houses. It's mostly they feed on paddy field, on paddy, like in the image where this tusker is right in the middle of a paddy field. So crop damage is a huge issue in Hassan, and paddy is the most damaged crop. They also spend a lot of time in coffee estate seasonally because there are a lot of jackfruit trees. So they really feed on jackfruit during the jackfruit season. So, I mean, elephants are a generalist, habitat generalist. So, elephants are found in an array of habitats. You could find them in grasslands, you could find them in rainforests. So, a coffee estate could also be a very conducive habitat if you look at from an elephant's perspective, because there is shade, there's a lot of water, seasonally there's grass. So, resource availability wise, probably the elephant could also spend a lot of time in coffee since this is a habitat generalist. Now, coming to the human deaths part, we have data here from three different landscapes. Of course, in Valparai, last few years, 47 deaths have happened. In the Hassan, last 10 years, 41 deaths. Unfortunately, just 2 days ago, there was a human death. It happened early in the morning when a priest who just went out of the house, their house, the bathroom is located about probably about 30-40 meters away from the house. And they were very well aware of elephant presence. And this person stepped out of the house early in the morning and encountered elephants. This was around 5:30 in the morning. So completely could have been avoided had the person taken just some precaution, waited for daylight. But unfortunately, a life was lost just 2 days ago. But yeah, different circumstances of death that we have seen, which I'll come to. But it's mostly men who have lost their lives, and in all the landscapes, it's people between 40 and 60 years of age who have lost their lives. So the circumstances, when and where these deaths have happened, this is information from Valparai and Hassan. So in Valparai and both in Hassan, a lot of deaths, in fact, more than 60% of them have happened on roads. And in Valparai, there is a certain seasonality that you see. I mean, elephant movement really peaks during December, post monsoon, and that is when most of the deaths occurred. But in Hassan, that wasn't the case. There were no monthly patterns that were observed. But what is important to note is that the time of these deaths in Hassan. So 67% of them happened between 6 a.m. and 10 in the morning and 4 and 8 in the evening. So these are very important information for us to then come up with what do we do in those critical time periods, and of course, like I said, roads, how do we safeguard these uh, areas, especially some critical stretches of roads. Now, most of them, very importantly, were surprise encounters where people didn't know about the elephants. Had they known, probably these lives could have been saved, and that is a very important thing to know, that almost all the deaths were surprise encounters where the people didn't know that there were elephants. So here's a small video by a colleague, Sridhar, and I just have to tell you about what happened here. So you can see a car parked in a distance, and this biker, people in the car alerted him, stopped him, said, "Don't go." But he ignored them, still ended up. The elephants were just by the road. He didn't stop, overtook the car, and this was the result. So sometimes people completely ignore the risks, and such incidents can definitely be avoided. Despite them being alerted, they still ended up in this situation. Again, another very similar thing. You can see that this Tusker is walking, and there are at least, I don't know, probably 50 people with mobile phones and cameras walking behind them. Of course, the forest department is there, but it's a very risky situation. It's just if the elephant turns back and charges, they cannot outrun because they are well within charging distance. So these are things that are really difficult to deal with on ground on a daily basis. And yeah, so the circumstances, like I was telling you, 36 or 47 cases, was 77% of them were unaware in Valparai about elephants on that particular day. Very similar story in Hassan as well, where people didn't know that there were elephants in that location. So this prompted us to think that early warning systems could be really beneficial. And I mean, in today's day and age, we have early warning for everything. You go out, you get traffic updates, there's early warning for weather. So, I mean, why not for elephants? So I think I think it really was the need of the hour in both these places. So how we are sending out these early warning? There are three basic things that we've implemented. One is of course the bulk SMS. You can see on the left top the one in Kannada, which is being sent in Hassan, and there's also a contact number which is my number, just if people need to get more information. So, and similar thing in Valparai as well, where Valparai it's bilingual, where there's also a lot of people who read English. And for people who can't read, we're also sending out voice messages. So basically, they answer the phone and they receive a voice call, which tells them where the elephants are. And there are these LED based alert lights. So basically, it works on GSM technology. For people who might have missed reading messages or don't know how to read messages, these lights simply indicate that there are elephants in the vicinity. This is a red blinking light, and each two members from the local community, whom the villages themselves choose, operate the lights. All they have to do is dial a number and the light turns on. So the wonderful thing is that in both landscapes, almost 98% of the time, people themselves are operating these lights. When the moment there are elephants, evening they turn on these lights. So the third one that we've also implemented in Hassan specifically is are these digital display boards. We've installed these at critical junctions. So usually when you look at the daily activity or daily routine of people, like both are plantation landscapes, one is coffee and tea. They have a very set lifestyle. They go out early in the morning for work and return back home from work. So during these times, elephant activity is also quite high. Early in the mornings, people go out to paddy fields or coffee estates. That is also when elephants are returning after feeding in the night, going towards their refuge areas. Similarly, in the evening, elephants step out, and that is when people are also coming back from work or going to town and coming back. So these boards have really helped them to plan their travel. So let's say a person is coming back on a certain route. If they see this message, they can at least take an alternative route. So there have been many times when I get calls from people after seeing the board whether it's safe to go ahead or should they take a different route. So it's all very simple and it's very sort of adaptable, and it's been working really well. So we have eight, actually now about nine such display boards across various junctions in Hassan. And coming to the forest department, now forest department is one of the key stakeholders. We've been working very closely with them in both landscapes. Local communities, of course, on the other hand, forest department has been in the front line. They are also they're under severe pressure from people. I mean, this is in both places. So one of the proactive things that has happened is the establishment of rapid response teams. Now these are local young boys who know the area really well, and they all they do is track elephants and alert people and ensure that there is no interface between people and elephants. They stand like a barrier between people and elephants. So in Valparai, it's very common that elephants end up near human habitations, and the rapid response team has a helpline. So people actually call the number and they reach out to help people no matter what time of the day it is. In Hassan also, RRTs have been working very, very actively, and these steps have really reduced the accidental encounters between people and elephants. And earlier in Hassan, when elephants were seen in a coffee plantation, people would run away. So that has reduced because now there is a mechanism that is keeping an eye on the elephants while coffee planters can carry on their regular daily activities. So there is the chasing of elephants has significantly come down in Hassan, which has also changed behavior. Now elephants don't, I mean, because they are less disturbed, they're also less stressed. So when they approach people, they are also very, very calm. Unless they're really disturbed, they try and avoid any confrontation. So this is a very, very huge step in both landscapes and helped a great deal in managing several situations that could have turned negative. And of course, the outreach also is widely happening in both places. We reach out to estate workers, we interact with them, have these presentations, we show them videos of what is happening around them, some basic do's and don'ts they need to do when there are elephants. And we also have been doing a lot of these training sessions to rapid response teams. So both stakeholders, we've been working very, very closely over the course of time. So coming to the important part, how have these systems impacted? So Valparai, there have, it's the seventh year, and Valparai is a place where there are 100 elephants, 100 to 120 elephants, and 70,000 people in an area of 220 square kilometers. So there have been zero human deaths for the seventh consecutive year. I mean, when I say zero, that's like there have been no surprise encounters. So the average has come down to one and it has remained like that for the past 15 years. Property damage has also come down thanks to timely response of RRTs, where they are ensuring that elephants are not damaging houses. So property damages have also come down, and in Valparai as well, tea plantations used to chase elephants. Now, with our team's efforts, they have also reduced chasing, so the damages have also reduced because elephants are not disturbed as much. Hassan, like I was telling you, last 2 years we had no human deaths, but last couple of days ago, this very really avoidable situation, but unfortunately there was a human death. But compared to the previous average, which used to be around 4 per year, it has almost come down to zero or probably one. But yes, I have to admit that crop damage has been a very, very big challenge to address. Uh, Here, it's both marginal farmers who grow paddy as well as coffee. So we've been trying very closely, try to work with the district administration and see how best we can sort of figure out what we could do. And one of the major challenges also is the delays that people don't receive timely compensation from the government. So, which is very important to note, because yesterday, when the human death occurred 2 days ago, one of the farmers was telling the DC that he does realize that you cannot capture 50 elephants or 60 elephants. It is not possible. All he was asking for is timely compensation. He said, I have to run around for compensation, and the paperwork is so much. Why can't the forest department just simplify these things? And I want compensation on time. And people are generally very tolerant, but when they're not receiving compensation on time is when all that negative sentiments is directed towards the elephants. He was very, very open, and he said, I know that elephants are also losing their habitats, forests are shrinking, I don't blame them, I have no anger against the elephant, but I just want the government to compensate for my loss, which is a very fair demand. I think if that is something the government could do, it could ease a lot of pressure both on the elephants as well as the forest department, which has been under severe pressure to manage the conflict situation. So, what are the benefits of early warning systems? Well, now people are empowered with information. They can plan their daily activities in a much better way. When I say better way, if someone's going on a bike, they could just probably take their car and go, or take a different route, alternative route. And the most important thing is earlier there was a huge disconnect between people and forest department, but now people also realize that it's vice versa anyway. I mean, both people and forest departments are working together. They have realized that it needs collective action, and that is what has changed a lot of things in both the landscapes, where there is a positive working relationship, and people now believe in working with the forest department. So, and in this inclusive approach is also been a huge step, because without the support of local communities, I don't think the whole early warning systems can sustain in the long run, because we have a good strong elephant informant network where people are constantly calling you and telling you about where elephants are, or they're asking you where I mean, they want information. So there is a platform where there's forest department, there is the research team and the people. So there is constant exchange of information, and all these collective steps have helped in easing a lot of pressure. So, so I would like to sum it up by saying that the way forward here is, I mean, the reality is we cannot have exclusive zones for elephants and people. This is something that's really not possible in a country like India. And cohabitation is the need of the hour, and is probably the only step ahead that we need to be looking at. Of course, there needs to be a site-specific intervention. We need to spend time understand how the local dynamics are. It's not just ecology or elephant behavior. It's also a lot of it involves people understanding their daily routines or their economic backgrounds. So it's a lot of multitude of factors that comes into play here. But yes, I would largely, I largely believe that coexistence is the way forward, and it has to be a proactive and inclusive sort of an approach. That is what, at least in our learnings in both Valparai and Hassan, this is what we have been seeing, and this seems to be working quite well. Thank you, and I would like to thank all our partners and funding agencies. Uh, I will. We can take questions now.
Thank you, Vinod, for that excellent presentation. We do have some questions, and before we go to the questions in the chat box, I am really curious. You, as a young researcher, what is it that kind of helped you decide that, okay, I'm going to be moving to Hassan, because I've seen you on the field and you're on the phone like 24/7. You don't sleep, you don't eat, you have no other social life. So what is it that drew you to that? And if you have to share some thoughts on that to our other young researchers out there, what would that be?
I think there are two things that drive people. I think it's either money or passion. I think I strongly believe it can't be both, as far as I know. But I'm really passionate about what I like, what I'm doing, although it gets really stressful, sometimes very demotivating, very depressing. But I still feel that, this is something that I feel it's worth spending my energy, time, and effort. Uh, and I feel that it is really, really required for action, because once we lose that window of where interventions can happen, then it's very difficult to come up with, I mean, not even solutions. I would say just to get in, I mean, intervene and see how best we can implement certain things. So I think we have a very short window of time. considering the rate at which we are losing forests for various developmental activities, somebody has to do it. And I strongly connect to these issues because I've been going to a lot of forest areas, and I've literally grown up seeing these forests or watching these animals. Although I completely value the socio-economic impacts of conflict, but personally, I do feel that we need to create a win-win situation both for the wildlife and the people. Uh, and we have to do it. It is really required. So I would, despite all the negative things that you see sometimes, I think I still hold on to hope and look at the positives of it.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, that's how I would see it. Even for younger researchers who've been seeing, I mean, this field, you see a lot more negative things than positives, but I think just hold on to the positives and move ahead.
Thank you. My next question would be to Dr. Anand. What was it that first helped you come out with this brilliant idea of being able to use a simple cell phone, which probably today most of us have? It doesn't require fancy cell phone technology. It's just a small little um, piece of technology which can receive information, and even those who can't read will probably get to know something out of it. So what was it that helped you come out with this brilliant idea, and how did you go about starting it in Valparai? You have to unmute, Dr. Anand. Dr. Anand, you have to unmute. We are not able
Yeah.
to hear you. Yeah,
Hello.
yeah,
Hello.
yeah, yeah. Now
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear you.
me?
Yeah, now we can hear
Oh,
you.
okay. Sorry. So I was trying to unmute, but couldn't unmute it. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah, I was reading a book called The Zen and Art of Motorcycle Maintenance some time ago, long ago, and this was suggested by my professor, Dr.M from University of Mysore. So the book actually talks about when a person actually encounters a problem on a road, okay, or on the way to problem, and if the if that road to problem solving is blocked, and people try to look the lateral ways, it's a we we thought that we really need to find a solution for this, because there's no way that the people we can ask people to leave the landscape, because their livelihoods are dependent, and we can't expect elephants not to come, not to use these areas. It's very difficult. That is the time that when we presented results, the solutions came from multiple sources. Okay, it's not only mine. One is that when we presented the results to stakeholders, and one of the estate managers said that, hey, in our estate, people are using Valparai television channel, which is a cable network. And why don't you make use of that? So the idea came from there. Okay. Yeah. One of the managers who gave, because as a manager, he knows that how people are actually leading their lives in his estate. Um, then we started using that Valparai television channel. But when the subscription to channel went down drastically, the subscribers, we were looking around how to get across to people, because I, as a person, that I will be able to tell 10 other people. That was the time that we actually saw lots of people using mobile phones. It just only when you are deeply thinking about this and how to get across to people, then you start seeing some light somewhere. So when we saw lots of people using mobile phones, and because of the better mobile connectivity that had actually improved in Valparai, we went and asked people, hey, would you like to receive messages if you try to send messages? Because each time when I withdraw money from a bank, I get an alert. Yeah. And I felt that why can't we use this same thing for elephants? And when people actually expressed interest, yes, they are messaging each other, text messages, and they're calling each other about elephants thing. So when I saw that people started using mobile phones much more widely and much more effectively, that's when this idea came up. So the ideas came from people themselves. It's not only mine. So, but I thought that we should actually put this opportunity as a better use. I hope I understood.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello,
Yeah, Dr. Anand, thank you.
hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, so we'll take a few questions that are in the chat box. So we have a
Okay.
question from Tanny. So she says, would you be able to explain a little bit more on the composition of the community groups, their livelihoods? Interesting insights you have been sharing with us, especially on community being part of the conflict management. So I think this is with respect to, it'll be good if you can touch both Valparai and Hassan to understand the different community groups out there.
Okay. 1 second. So could you please? I couldn't hear your question properly. Could you please repeat it?
Yeah. Would you be able to explain a little bit more about the composition of the community groups, the
Hello.
different community groups, both in Valparai and Hassan? Of course, they are very diverse areas, but if you can help us understand a little bit more.
Yeah, there is a little bit of change. I mean, the way which the people work is different between these two landscapes. So, both the landscapes, either tea or coffee, people work together and
Okay, I think he has some. Okay, he's back. Yeah.
We lost you for a second. You have to unmute.
hello,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah. We can hear you.
Yeah, I have unmuted. Yeah, so the working styles are a little different between these two landscapes, but the majority of the people are workers. Either they are working in tea estates or working in coffee estates, and Valparai is mostly um, owned by national and multinational companies, and very few managers sector, but lots of people are actually working for the companies in tea estates as a daily wage workers. So that's not, it's a company owned landscape actually. So any decision that is taken at the top will be percolated down to the worker. So it will be implemented throughout the company once a general manager decides that. So there we have to actually communicate and convince the higher top level management and make people understand that why these things are being implemented. So talking to people, talking to workers on a daily basis. So that's the way we have to actually
Vinod, maybe you can keep talking. I think we lost him again.
No,
hello,
yeah, yeah.
hello,
Yeah, you're back.
yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, it's getting yeah. So that's one way of looking at when we saw that lots of workers who were working for the companies. And on the other hand, if you look at Hassan, the entire landscape is owned by different, each individual owner owns a coffee estate. So it's a lots of people who have little bit of coffee land, and each person is an individually owned coffee planter. So it becomes very challenging for us to deal with people in the Hassan region because lots of them are owners, coffee planters. Hello.
Hello? Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So this, I hope you got my points.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
the Hassan area also has a lot of small and marginal farmers. Isn't that right, Vinod? Would you like to add a little bit there?
Yeah. Yeah, so like Anand was telling, in Valpara, it's mostly company-owned plantations, but here it makes it very tricky because here we have marginal farmers who just own an acre or maybe a couple of acres of paddy. Then there are some farmers who have a little bit of coffee and paddy, but largely it's individual owners. Then you have also some individual planters like owners who have a few hundreds of acres as well. So it's very diverse when you look at the socio-economic backgrounds of people in Hassan as opposed to Valpara. It's a little more diverse when it comes to Hassan, and that is why it also becomes so challenging because you can't expect a small farmer to like if it's a larger estate, then he can at least have elephants in one part of the estate and continue work, but might be a challenge for a smaller farmer to have elephants. And that is when the rapid response teams are important here. So these guys, while people are going about their regular activity, are keeping an eye on the elephants, which was non-existent a few years ago. So yes, in terms of the livelihood, it is very different. I mean, the socioeconomic backgrounds of people in Valpara and Hassan is slightly different.
Okay. Um, Thank you. There's a question from Aruna. She says, "What are the first of all?" She says, "Nice to hear you and honored to know you." Then she says, "What are the common misconceptions that we human beings have about elephants?"
Very interesting. So I think this is where the media can play a huge role. So if you look at some of the headlines, just dig out human-elephant conflict, and you just see the headlines. It'll say marauding elephants, or some of the local Kannada media will say, for example, I still remember an elephant that was captured from Tumkur. He was named Rowdy Ranga. So yeah, so there'll be headlines like killer arrested and stuff like this. So it, for an average reader, it makes you sound like elephants are here to damage crops or kill people, which is not the fact. They are very when you don't disturb them, they're very calm, they keep to themselves, they're very gentle. That's why they call gentle giants. But the common misconception is, that elephants are, yes, they can be dangerous. I'm not at all denying it. But if you maintain a safe distance, if you just let them be, and they're just very peaceful by nature. So I think one of the things I would like to highlight here is the importance of how media writes about conflict. Most of the time it's usually quite, it's not balanced. You see a very few articles about conflict that has all the perspectives on people, elephants, and from the department. It's usually biased. It tends to bias. I'm not saying it's always biased towards people. It could also be biased towards the animal, which is not. It cannot be like that in an area where people are sharing spaces with elephants or any other wild animal. So I think a lot of what people's perception about elephants is about what they see on TV or what they read, which is really important. And somewhere it also becomes our responsibility as researchers to take these things to people, take science to people. And this is something that Anand has done in Valparai, and people even in Hassan appreciate it because for 6 months after we started work, we went back to people and told them we want to share our results with you. And initially, it was very difficult. It was quite hostile sometimes to deal with local communities, to have conversations with them. But when we went back to them with our results, shared what we saw, people really, appreciated the efforts. They said many people have come and gone, but you guys came back to us and shared what you've seen. So it is somewhere a responsibility as researchers. We have to do we have to take it back to people and tell them what we saw, whether they accept it or whether they're not very open to it. It doesn't matter. But what really is the key is to take it back to people, present them the facts and figures. So these are some things that may help us remove those perceptions about what elephants think, and also gives us a lot of insight about what people think about elephants. So the next time you're approaching, you know what you need to tell them.
Yeah, thank you.
See,
Uh, yeah,
I
yeah,
would like to add a point here. Um, See, most of the time that what people think elephant, it's a very close to people, hearts, because my daughter learned letter E because of elephant. Yeah. So take any language, for example. So the association, is a very, very close. So the moment people see an elephant, they can go and touch elephant, they can go and take a picture. And so that's where the lot of misconception that would come up, because elephants are very, very soft, and they can approach them very easily, because but the people don't understand that they do have certain space and they do need certain space. Particularly when we are actually dealing with wild elephants. Just to give an example, when my professor Never Singh and me were actually driving through Mudumalai Wildlife Sanctuary, and one side of the road there was a tusker standing, the other side a bunch of people got out of a Matador van, and women and children, and they were carrying coconut, because they want to break a coconut in front of the elephant, wild elephant, which was standing on the other side of the road. And they were really approaching close to the elephant, because when I looked at the Matador registration was Andhra Pradesh. Yeah. So people had absolutely no idea about elephants there. People from Andhra, but they don't know how to deal with an elephant. They don't even know. They think that elephant means that temple elephant. So in some places, what people think that okay, Ayappa is there, and if I say Murugan, Ayappa, elephants will go away. So that's a misconception. They try to get close to elephant, and some people try to feed them. And these are because the elephant might be thinking that, hey, why this guy is coming close to me? And the elephant will make all kinds of behavioral behaviors, like alerts that an elephant will give to people. But people fail to notice those things because people don't know much of these alert behaviors. So that's where the encounter happens, and which may lead to a fatality or injury. So most of these misconceptions, one is that, as Vinod tells, that the media portrays very, very differently. They say that elephant menace, or in Tamil they call it as Yanagal Attahasam. So here an elephant maybe is quietly walking through plantations and trying to avoid people, but the people will go right behind them. It's just thinking that okay, this I can run much faster than an elephant. Most people don't even know that the elephant can actually run as fast as 50 kilometers per hour. So because we were chased in our vehicle, that we were chased by an elephant in Mudumalai for 50 kilometers per hour at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour for 2 kilometers. So I couldn't imagine so that the elephant could run that fast. So this, yeah, it's a good thing that if the media reports it very more positively and reports the facts, and the people also there, during our awareness programs, a lot of people ask us that if I call the elephant as Ayappa, go away, then will they go away? So because these are the misconceptions that a lot of people do have.
thank you. So there is a
Hello.
question from, hello, yeah. So there's a question from Rameshan who asks a little bit about the early warning system itself. So I think it'll help if you can exactly tell us how this entire system works, because he's asking if there are sensors which will detect and pass on the information. Number one, and his other related question is, what are the challenges you face when you're installing the early warning systems?
Yeah, these are very important questions. So thanks to Mr. Ramesh for asking this. One is okay, and what we want is that
Sorry,
developing a
Anand.
network.
Sorry, Anand, to interrupt, but you went offline for a bit. Could you start from the beginning?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So these early warning systems are just only tools. Okay, they don't work if there is no developing an information network, elephant information network, involving the people. Yeah, and um, the question what you asked is this, sorry.
So his,
Yeah, how the system work. No?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what we, so instead of making it everything automatic, we asked people cooperation, because in Valpara there are 70,000 people living there, and elephants can't escape 70,000 people eyes. In Hassan, there are about 1 lakh people living there. All these 40, 50 elephants which are there in Hassan region can't escape 1 lakh people eyes. So we wanted to develop a multi-layer network involving the people. So that's where the win is. So that's where we could actually bring in win-win situation both for people and elephants. So when people notice it, and they immediately call us, and that information will be passed on. And we have a tracking team which will actually go and track elephants and make sure that the information that comes from the people is is a genuine one. And there is a rapid response teams which are actually tracking elephants, and they also inform us. That's how we get to know about elephants locations, and we send out the same message. So it's just only we are creating a facility where people actually park that information with the system here, and goes back to them. That information goes back to hundreds of people in a fraction of minute. So these are only the facilities that are created. As so, as far as your second question is concerned, we faced a little bit of challenges, both when we contacted the department and government agencies, and as well as people. Okay, because this is people are so much tuned to avoiding elephants, no? So so much trenches and stuff.
Dr. Anand,
Then that was not.
Uh,
Hello.
yeah.
Anand, after physical barriers, you went offline.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. Yeah. Um, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you now.
Yeah. So before we started any of these early warning systems, and people were so much familiar with the electric fences, trenches, and rubble walls, and all kinds of barriers that would actually exclude elephants or divide people and elephants. Yeah. So that's not possible in both the landscapes, what we realized. And when we proposed this SMS systems and light alert light systems, mobile operated light systems, it was they were new, and there was a little bit of resistance to agree to these measures. But somehow that a few officers have actually taken a proactive step. They said that, okay, let's try it out. So that's how one of will help you. Okay, we'll support you. Please go ahead. And when we
Yeah, I think we've lost him again for a minute. Maybe Vinod, you can take over and complete.
Yeah, so what I think Anand is trying to tell is that a few officers in the forest department, be it Hassan or Valpara, have made a huge difference. Uh, they said, okay, let's try, let's give it a shot. Maybe this thing will work. Because, like I was telling you earlier, they're also under a lot of pressure. I mean, for years and years, they've been trying so hard. Yet, if incidents of deaths and injuries keep happening, They also are looking for solutions all the time. Like, this is not a solution, this is a measure to decrease the risks that people are facing. And yeah, thanks to some really good officers in the forest department, we were able to initiate this. And from this day one, it is very clear that no matter where it is, we have to work with the department, because then it will be inclusive, and it is always better when these systems are. Now we have a good healthy working relationship both with the forest department and people, and that has really helped us sustain so far. So yeah, I mean, a few officers can really make a difference in such things.
Okay, thank you. There's another interesting question from Tanny. So she says, so in your long-term engagement, do you see any big projects that are aggravating the situation for human-wildlife conflict? And any observations you would like to share with the team here with respect to the big development projects happening all around? For example, the question there is coming from her own research, because she's researching on protected areas where tigers are protected, and we see that a lot of investment is coming into big mining projects, coal, iron, a variety of other infrastructure projects which are disturbing these habitats. So do you see similar big projects coming in and around your areas? And that is kind of pushing this conflict further?
Anand, would you like to take this?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No. Yeah. So as far as Valpara is concerned, that we don't see any major developmental projects that are coming up, because thanks to Tamil Nadu government, because they have Hill Preservation Act, and that will prevent any developmental projects that can be taken up. And it's also a part of the Anamala Tiger Reserve. So nothing will be allowed inside the Tiger Reserve or within the within the jurisdiction of Tiger Reserve. But as far as Hassan is concerned, that I don't see major things that are coming up. But what is happening here is that we can't see Hassan where we are working in isolation of surrounding forest areas, because there are already lots of mini hydel projects that are there. If you go to Sakleshpur region, lots of mini hydel projects, and which is a really scary thing, because if more forests are open up for either for mining or for mini hydel projects, and that will have repercussions on conflict incidents in the Hassan region, because elephants will be driven out of that area and they don't know where to go, and they have to land up in human use areas. That may increase the conflict much more.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Anand was telling, that in Sakleshpur the mini hydel projects have been quite detrimental, and more recent one is the Yetin Hole, of course. That is one of the major projects that has come up in Sakleshpur. A lot of deforestation happened. I mean, this is not just the forest areas. I mean, a lot of coffee estates as well. So the land use has been changing quite rapidly in Hassan as well. But yes, what I keep whenever we interacting with coffee planters, this is one thing that we try and highlight most of the time, that we need to conserve what little is remaining. Otherwise, it just aggravates the situation, and they are the very people who will be suffering the consequences of these. So somewhere it is what we are really trying to do, especially in Hassan of late, is to instill that sense of importance of these existing forest areas, because in the absence of which, elephants will end up spending more and more time in coffee estates, or could end up in areas where they have not been earlier. So somewhere it is also a collective responsibility of civil society, especially people of Sakleshpur or the Malnad region, and that is where we are also trying to really tell them to be, to resist any more development in these areas, because it's just going to worsen things in the longer run.
Thank you. There's a question from Uttara who says that how are elephants looked up by the local people? Are they empathetic towards them or hate them when they lose their near and dear ones and their properties? So, and how do you look at this issue as an NCF member? So this takes me back to an incident, I think it was 2017, when sometime around when I came, a little girl had lost her life.
It was a school boy actually.
Yeah,
He was
yeah. And there were stories about his school bag and his home and his school and a whole lot of things that I recall. So it'll be good to share with us those kind of stories, and also your effort of raising awareness with the help of street plays. I know you put in a lot of effort with a couple of teams together to popularize this entire thing. It'll be good to share that and how that changed the local community attitude towards this entire thing, because I remember you saying that initially they would say no, we don't want elephants here, capture them, but later on they kind of said no, 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 we have to coexist. So how that shift happened? Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you the Hassan side of things. Then probably Anand can also add to what I say. But so yes, I mean largely even today, people really like elephants. Like they have a in Kannada, a lot of people tell me that idondu Visheshwada Prani, which means it's very special. So probably because of the cultural significance, even the smallest farmers are very empathetic. I've met farmers who have lost almost entire half an acre or 1 acre they have, and they still at the end of the conversation will say what to do. It's a large animal, it needs to feed, and they're losing forests. So in a time of such loss, he's still able to have that kind of empathy itself is something remarkable, and I just wonder how such thoughts come. I mean, this is not just one or two people, but this is quite I would say a majority of the people do have a sense of empathy. But yeah, having said that, it's not a drastic change in their attitude, but they do understand the problem. They do acknowledge that there is a larger problem to this area, and what we also try and tell them that it's not just Hassan. It's not an isolated problem, Hassan or Kur. This is something that's happening across the country. It is very important for us to keep them informed about other areas as well. Sometimes they always, like some people keep telling me the elephant population is going up so much because they keep seeing large herds of elephants in their vicinity. But that's not the fact. I mean, if you look at, like I was mentioning earlier, in the last 1 or 2 months, probably more elephants have died than people in South India at least. So these are things that we need to keep telling them. But yes, people definitely do have some place in their hearts, I would say, about elephants. Many of them don't claim compensations. They believe that if they file for compensation, they will experience more damage the following year. So they don't file for compensation. Many people. So they just believe that whatever. Once an old man told me that whatever they have left for us is ours. Rest is for them. So they have very different. Each person will have something different to say. But yeah, I mean, Valparai again, Anand's been there, so he'll tell you more about the street play part of it and Valparai as well.
Yeah. So one of the see generally the people are really very they really like elephants, and but when there is a if there is somebody is injured or some death happens, then of course the emotions run high, and the people behave very differently when they are in groups as compared to when they are when they are individuals. Okay, the responses will win. But one of the things that I was really surprised long ago in Valparai, but there was a damage that happened to a house. So it happened in the middle of night, around 3 o'clock, and I received a call at 6 o'clock, and I rushed to the spot, And there, when I saw that devastation, it was really horrible because the entire there's a two-room house and one room just collapsed entire thing. And that woman described how the incident was that an elephant calf tried to, because elephant calves, they are trying to learn from the environment by exploring the environment. And so a little bit of push, that main door opened, and elephant landed up in their bedroom in the middle of night, and it was really elephant in the room kind of thing. So when they heard some noise inside their bedroom, both husband and wife got up and turned on the light. When saw an elephant calf inside their bedroom, they was really shocked. So they screamed and they took away their two kids and ran towards the back door. But because of all these things, the elephant calf made squeaky noise, and mother was really angry, and she pulled down the entire wall of that room to pull out the calf. So later, that woman was telling me that, see how I was really, uh, I was in a hurry to protect my kids. The same thing that the mother elephant also tried to protect its own calf. So it's a matter of, because she could actually understand. She told me that how I can feel that how an elephant mother elephant could actually feel about its calf as I feel about my kids. So it's a great thing. So that's where I see that there is a lot of scope and hope for us to work with the people, because people are not that angry towards the elephant. It's just only the safety part that they are actually looking at, which is a legitimate thing. Even if I were to be in their position, I would have expected a safety to my life, not only my life, my family and my kids. So this is a very genuine demand that people actually put forward, and we have to address those things. So generally, that people are really very empathetic towards elephants, and they really appreciate the elephants being around. One of the things, one of the women, old lady, she told me, see, we have very small stomachs, we are so greedy, and we are so hungry, we feel so hungry. But look at that, such a huge animal having big stomach, they have to feed on something. So let them feed and go. So this is the kind of thing what you see there by and large. Of course, there are people that who are cribbing about elephants because they came and damaged their flower pots. So, but by and large, people are really very sympathetic and empathetic towards elephants. I really appreciate them.
Thank you. Yeah, so many of our participants have been congratulating your work and your presentation right now. So Vikram says, are you thinking of any new technological means to expand the scope of your work?
How it's a see the main question for us is that we have got some confidence with regard to human deaths issue, but we still that we have to work on crop damage issue, and often the people told us that if they get to know elephants early in advance, before they enter their croplands, they will be, it is really helpful for them. And we are working with the two brilliant boys, engineers, to develop optical fences, which would actually intimate to the farmer before the elephants come into his or her farm. So this is something that we would like to try it out in Hassan, because Hassan is a very complex landscape and a very mosaic of paddy fields and coffee fields and stuff. And if these things, if these devices would give a better solution for people and their livelihoods, that will be great. And because that can be replicable in many other areas across the country. So this is one thing that we are looking at. And but we, as a small organization, that we can only work in very few areas and with limited resources. Yeah. So hence that we want to take up, we want to work in modern landscapes. So if you look at Valparai is embedded within the large expanse of forest areas. That's one way, that one kind of landscape. Hassan is completely out of the protected areas, very few reserve forest areas, but mostly plantations. but we would also like to work in places where there is forest on one side and the croplands on the other side. So that is another kind of landscape, model landscape that we would like to work. So hopefully that if it is locally appropriate and if people are willing to take it up, we would like to help the people to take it forward, because obviously that we can't be there in every place, and that is not our idea also. We want people to take it forward is what more important, because we can only show the results in model landscapes so that people can actually adopt these techniques if they feel that it's comfortable for them and it's appropriate in their landscapes. We can actually help them to set it up and try it out.
Thank you. There is a somewhat related question in the context of landscape. So Durga is asking, how does an increase in monoculture plantation in elephant habitats affect their health and eating behavior, and obviously their the conflict that we are facing today?
Yeah, it's a, see, we are actually converting lots of areas into monoculture plantations because we are clearing up forest areas, planting rubber, eucalyptus, coffee plantations, or expanding tea, and all these things will have really severe effects on elephant populations. So look at this way, that an elephant would require about 200 kilograms of food, and it's not the random food that they eat. So because it also requires a lot of nutrients and minerals that are very, very quite important. And if if all our forest areas are converted into monoculture plantations, and that will definitely affect their reproductive abilities, and it will lead to a lot of health disorders.
Yeah. And in that context, so the next question is about funding. How it must be pretty challenging chasing funds. How has that scenario been?
Yeah, well, I mean, thankfully for the last 15 years or so that uh, we have been supported by various funding agencies. Yeah, but most of the time that funding is always 1 year, for 1 year. And so that will actually restrict us to take any challenging tasks, because it will also lead to uncertainty among team members, because we don't know where the money is going to come next year. By the time we close our eyes and open, and 1 year is gone. Okay. And yeah, so funding is a big challenge thing. And so in the COVID times also, a lot of funding agencies actually they are unable to fund us, um, and which is becoming a little difficult. Hopefully that after COVID things would turn out better.
Okay. I know we've crossed the time, but just one or two last comments and questions. So Krishna Rao is somebody who's spent a lot of time in Munnar and Valparai regions. So he's somebody who's familiar with the tea landscapes as well. So he says the elephant corridor from Valparai through to Tekadi has got truncated at many points. Is there any plan to rejoin the locations? It would be useful.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I mean, corridors are very important. And see, what is more important, it's not only the physical connectivity that one should look at, but the functional connectivity. That's very important. See, today that we can't go and tell rubber plantations in Kerala, say that you close down all your rubber plantations and develop a corridor, give away your land for elephants thing. Yeah. So it's very difficult. I mean, that's not feasible at all. So let's look at very pragmatically. But if we can actually influence these rubber planters or other plantation people, that hey, when there are elephants moving through your plantation areas, just allow them to move through. So that's where we are actually making the functional connectivity to operate. So that's because elephants are wide-ranging species, and they have to move from one area to other. And if there is a male that is there in one area has to go to the other areas, that's where the genetic diversity will actually increase. So that's where the population will also thrive. And so that kind of functional connectivities are very extremely important. If you can actually allow at least a few males to move from one area to the other is extremely important, so that these populations between the landscapes could become genetically more diverse.
And thank you. There was one question in the very beginning by Mr. Vasant Mysore Math. He had asked about how we cannot put roads, underneath, underground. So where all can we create underpasses? It's simply a lot of money and too much infrastructure work. So would you like to comment to that?
Oh, it's a very difficult to have underground roads, and it will also distract the existing natural areas. So if you look at Valparai, for example, there are a lot of rainforest fragments among the tea plantations, and all these rainforest fragments have many endangered and endemic species. And if we are having these roads underneath, and that's going to distract the entire area. So as a person, um, I could see that this is not possible at all. And there are many roads. This is, we are not talking about the main roads, but there are village roads, kacha roads, roads which are leading to individual houses, like in Hassan. So we can't have underground road network all around. That's going to spoil the earth. So it's uh, more construction, more damage.
Thank you. We know that it'll be good if you can share the link to the very recent video that was released on the Elephant Day
Yeah.
with all our participants, and also talk a little bit about it. I saw Vikram. I don't know if he's still around. So both of you could probably share
Yeah.
a little bit about the film.
Vikram, if you could just, um, I mean, he's here, so I think he would be the better person to just share his thoughts. I still see him there. Oh, yeah, there is.
Hello.
Yeah, Vikram.
Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I'll just very quickly add, just my 2 cents about the project that I did, which essentially followed the work that Dr. Kumar and Vinod are doing. And we focus primarily on the work that's happening in the Hassan region. And the film, which was released by Al Jazeera English just a couple of weeks ago, in fact, tracks the efforts by the team in Hassan to implement the early warning systems. And we get a pretty intimate look at the challenges that they face and the manner in which they overcome them. Um, in addition to that, I mean, all I can say is that having seen firsthand the way that especially Vinod works, it was remarkable to me just the amount of, I would say the amount of man hours required for the kind of conservation work that's being done here, the amount of engagement with people. That's what really stood out to me, is that, as Bhargavi, you had mentioned earlier, Vinod is constantly on the phone talking to people and talking to different stakeholders. And that's something that I think will come across to people who watch the film is the genuine effort to engage all different stakeholders, people that may be hostile towards elephants, people that have suffered great damage because of elephants, people that are, of course, supportive of elephants, and to bring them together in a way that allows them to coexist with elephants. So for me, it was a real education to see not only the technical aspects of the work and the way this early warning system works, but just the amount of engagement with people, with communities. I mean, I've lost count of the number of times Vinod would stop while he was driving to listen to people, not only talk to them but also listen to them and take on their viewpoints, take on the comments they had about the system. And I think that's a large part of the success that NCF has had in that region, is that they really have, even though there was some hostility, I think initially, and there may still be some hostility, I think they really found a way, as Vinod said earlier, to be present there, to remain there, and to provide a really valuable service to that region.
Yeah, thank you. So my colleague Ashish has already provided the link there. It is called elephants in my backyard. So I would urge all our participants to watch that film because it gives you a glimpse of how this early warning system is working, and share it with all. And there is also a very interesting comment from Deepa, who says that hope the same content can be telecast on popular media to reach many more and create more awareness. Yes, I think it is time that these kind of stories are picked up by more media and we read more about these things in daily newspapers. So we've really crossed the time, but thanks everyone, and thanks to Vinod and Anand, because today they had to move out from their field sites and come to a place where internet was accessible. So thanks a lot for that effort, and thank you so much. It was a very enlightening and great presentation. All of us learned so much. There is one more comment from Mr. Karyappa from Munnar KDHP. He says that we are already doing our best with an early warning system to tie up with the forest department. We want to refine the system and make it more effective, and your help is solicited. Mr. Karyappa, I would urge you to get in touch with Vinod. Vinod, maybe you could give your cell phone number here or your email ID so that he can, any of us who want to connect with you later on can also connect with you. That will be very helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Should I just type it in the chat box?
Sure. Yeah, please type it in the chat box. And also it will be good to hear some closing comments from both of you. Dr. Anand, while Vinod types in his email.
Yeah. See, what I strongly feel is that there are many advocates for people, but there are very few advocates for elephants or any wildlife for that matter. So we need more voices and support from people based on the facts and based on the scientific investigation. So there are lots of people that who are actually working towards saving our wildlife, nature, forests, and people. So if the support comes from people who have a lot of skills, so that we could actually save not only elephants but a lot of wildlife in the future. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Vinod, closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having us. It's been, it honestly is my first webinar. I've attended, but I've never given a talk on such a platform. So it's a lot less intimidating now. I was always skeptical how these things work, but yeah, I think that's one different experience for me. But yeah, I think what I really feel is one of the most important things is for for somebody, I mean somebody not working in this space, it is not just science or ecology today when it comes to conservation. It's a lot of other factors that are involved, and a lot of institutions. I mean, it's just not the forest department. I think it is very important to collaborate across a whole range of people. I think it is, since it involves so many things. I mean, so I strongly feel that conservation today is not just the animal or centered around that, which is very important. I mean, that forms the basis of your interventions, but it's also important to be sensitive about communities there and how the relation between the animal and the local communities, and of course the various stakeholders in terms of the government, be the forest department or the gram panchayat. So that is what we have been learning in the process of these interventions. I would just simply end by saying that it's still a long way ahead. I mean, 5 years on, we are slowly able to see some positive impact, but it has to be a sustained effort in each and every landscape. I would be really happy if we are able to, just facilitate these things like Anand was saying, and if the government can build that capacity, or if we can build capacity and just let it run with the help of the government, I think that will be really fantastic. Because like many people pointed out, for small organizations like us, funding is always a challenge. And if we are able to facilitate, just lay the foundation and let the systems in place run by with the help of the government, nothing like it. I think it is something that probably, in my opinion, will help such things sustain, but it really requires long-term intervention. So that is where I see this going.
Thank you. So thanks everyone for being a part of this, and thanks Dr. Anand and Vinod for making time despite your busy schedule to come into the digital world and share your story with us. I guess you all are the only ones who've been on the field even through the entire last 6 months of lockdown. You probably didn't even feel what the lockdown was.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I'm jealous out there.
Thank you so much.
And so we will surely share the recording of this with you all and make sure that this is more widely disseminated. I would also like to thank all my colleagues who made this possible, starting from Joe, the Executive Director of CFA, Leo Saldana, the Coordinator and Trustee of EST, Sana, Karthik, Ashwin, Ashish, and everyone who helped in the technical side in the background. So stay tuned, because next Thursday we have another very interesting talk on the digital commons. And we have Nandini and Deepthi from IT for Change sharing their thoughts on it. Again, young researchers talking about digital commons. So thanks again, and good evening, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
How do you